maybe Gallo, the parent company, might be more interested once we have a more firm number and firm direction that that's where we're going.
So guesstimated cost of $600,000, not including the acquisition cost. Does that include everything you mentioned, the materials, engineering, drainage, lighting, everything?
That's all of those. It doesn't include permits if we have to get permits.
Right.
Most likely we would not have to get permits, we'd still have to do environmental work, which could be tied into the treatment plant if we get it soon enough, or if we get that as the permanent direction soon enough.
Okay.
That the RFP for the environmental hasn't gone out yet, so that can be still incorporated into that.
Okay.
Other than that, we met with USDA, and USDA is interested in providing a loan, as I'm sure they always are. So we're working with them to get our current information into a format that they require to even evaluate our project. Once that's done, hopefully within the next month, then we'll get a firm answer on whether or not they're going to fund it, how much they're going to fund it, and how much can be grant money. One bright side of this whole thing is that, and I'm sure you see this more often than not, but the way the state works is nobody wants to do any work in the state, so as soon as USDA approves our project, then we can get more funding from other agencies because they just don't want to put any effort into looking at our project. So there's that, and the USDA engineer is willing to help us kind of ferret out some of those other options.
Okay.
I met with a circuit rider from CRWA, which is called California Rural Water Association, and she is also willing to help us review our applications and our requests for information for these to help gear them towards what is required for state and federal funding, to hopefully help streamline them and put the proper words out front so that they catches their attention for them.
Yeah.
So we'll be working towards that, hopefully getting more applications in for additional grant money as we're moving along.
Great.
That's all I have. If you have any questions,
Any board questions or comments?
I saw that it's going to be, you have the deadline is 1 year and 1 month. When is like construction? When will we start seeing construction out there?
well, it's really going to depend on the funding for construction. The drawings, to finish the construction drawings, probably looking, the earliest they'd be done is probably the summer. So it's theoretically possible to let out a contract for construction, in August or around that time. That would be extremely tight as far as getting everything done and out there. It's more likely that we'd be starting towards the end of the year or the beginning of next year. But it really is getting close to when their theoretical deadline is. Right now, we have a little bit of a window as far as our proximity to our hydraulic capacity. So it's possible we might not actually be at the capacity in March of 2021. It's also possible that we could get an extension or acknowledgement that we're doing our best and we can't quite get there, as long as we're not chronically over by a lot. We're keeping communication with the water board, so they're apprised of what's going on, and they can provide better direction as to what they would want to see, so that they don't come back and start finding us for something.
I think that one thing we should be cognizant of through this process is once we do award a GC for this project and any subs, that whatever contract language we present should include liquidated damages for any term beyond the project completion date. Because ultimately, if it isn't completed, we may face fines or other costs to the district in terms of continuing the project, so we
Right.
should probably address that. Probably have the contract language.
With liquidated damages, you have to provide accommodations for awards, I'm sorry, I'm getting tired, but for completing ahead of schedule as well, so you have to have both sides of the
There
fence.
can certainly be an incentive.
That'll all be considered, you know, depending on what our timeline is,
Right.
you know, that may play into it, because if we're looking at some sort of fines after a finite date, then there would have to be some accommodation for that.
Of course. Any other board comments or questions? Any public comment? Yes.
I just have a couple of questions. The two parcels, Kelly, are those the lots behind the development that's already there, the housing development that are on the other side of their fence?
So one lot is behind the homes that are on Aldo, in the Mission Meadows tract, between Aldo and the railroad. The other parcel is between the treatment plant and the new parcel that we already bought, and the railroad tracks. So the two pieces essentially go from in 16th Street to the north end of our property, which is kind of the middle of Mission Heights.
Okay.
This wonderful yellow highlighted property, correct, the one right above it?
That one and the one right above it.
Yeah. So they look at about, that's 7 acres of land.
So that's land that's not very accessible, or, excuse me, or usable by, you know, the normal average person out there who might own it because of they don't have a road access, do they?
So that property is really, it wouldn't be able to be used for anything other than a road. Because they won't allow housing on it because it's too close to the railroad at that point. And the second piece is landlocked, so you'd have to have easement through the first piece to get to the second piece. And right now, the only ones that have easement are us and Gallup. When Mr. Grizzle owned that piece that we bought, he had easement through part of it, but not all of it, which was strange.
And that easement doesn't allow us to put traffic on it?
The easement that we have right now is for access for for district personnel, not for the public.
Really? And it's specifically stated that way?
So that railroad easement, did you figure that out with the railroad, or is that to come when you get there? Because you said you would have to check with the railroad about getting the easement for the right of way to build a road there on that easement.
Yeah, so the two options are either purchase the property and then build the road on our property, and then maintain the easement with Gallo, which I think would be our legal obligation. The other option is to work out an addition or enhanced easement agreement with the railroad to allow public access across the road. But those obligations might be as costly or more costly than buying the property. Which is why we're looking at both options.
If you build, it would have to be a road, not a driveway.
Yeah, it would have to be a
It would have to be a road, because
26 foot wide road.
the trucks are gonna beat the crap out of it.
We wouldn't be able to get away with a driveway per se.
Right.
It would have to be a 26-foot wide, commercially rated
Right.
road.
Long road.
So that was figured in your $600,000 cost for that road?
Yeah, that's why it costs so much. The only part that's not really considered in that is the property acquisition or costs for additional easements.
I think we should continue pursuing the other avenues as well. That
Which
you were
other
speaking of. Well, you said purchasing it versus
Yeah, we're looking at both.
entering into an easement.
We're looking at both. We're looking at what the cost would be to purchase it and what the cost would be to put an easement on it. The one benefit, sorry?
To do business with the railroad.
Yeah. The one benefit, especially to buying the northern piece, is that we'd be able to move the treatment processes out of the lower area of the treatment plant up to a higher area and farther north. And we don't really have that option with the properties that we currently have. So, you know, that would be one benefit to buying that. We wouldn't be able to put a permanent treatment plant on an easement. But, so, at any rate, we're looking at both options, and once we have some more firm information, that'll be brought back.
So you need consensus to approve extending a conditional offer of 50,000 for each parcel?
Right.
Okay.
So my only concern is, here we have somebody at a meeting trying to get more information as to what the opinions are over there. We have another item here for temporary housing, and I'm wondering, I mean, when we discuss that, I'm wondering if there's still an option for the building to remain in this building and have the rest of the building for fire. I'm not opposed to making a non-committal offer, but I think that we need to pursue everything still as far as options go.
Well, I think everything really is an option still.
Right.
It's just how good of an option are some things.
Right.
And if you guys are not,
There isn't one that's perfect.
no, and not everybody's gonna be happy with whatever decision we finally make. It's just
Right.
not gonna happen.
Right, but at least there's already truck traffic behind those houses now. We're not adding that.
Well, I mean, we would be adding more to the traffic,
Not truck traffic.
truck traffic
Right.
for the treatment plant operation
Right.
than we have now. But it's not gonna be,
I'd rather have it go behind my house than in front of my house.
Well, it's in front of my house.
but she lives on the other side of the railroad tracks,
Yeah.
so it's fair.
Big impact.
So, you're not opposed, Director Raymond?
I'm not opposed, I just want to close the door to any other
Okay.
options.
Where do you stand? Director Cox?
On moving forward with you and the inquiry.
Yeah, potentially extending a conditional non-committing offer.
I think there's no harm in asking questions and getting information, and I guess we'll also find out from tonight's meeting at the HOA how angry or, you know, whatever, true on this.
You agree with that? Director Parent?
I'm completely indifferent.
Okay.
Support. So we'll extend the offer, 50,000 per parcel, which is it's not, well, that's what they're, we may be able to get an offer of 50,000 for the two parcels. If that's the case, then that obviously go up better, but
Take it and run.
it's not a commission or a committal to buy, it's just an initial offer.
Okay.
And this doesn't mean that they're gonna even want to pursue a sale at all.
Right.
But we'll go down that road and see what that has, or we'll continue with the easement also.
Okay. Perfect.
And that's it.
Any other board comments? Any public comment? No. All right, moving on to item 6. Continued discussion of the fire department temporary housing unit.
So this is something we talked about, when we looked at a couple different options, and Scott has put together a report here for you guys, and he's got some information for you.
Thank you.
Essentially, this is a follow-up to the conversation we had at the functional space meeting. And I did meet with the county on December 30th. We had a meeting with I had a meeting with two of the main planners there, Don Moore and Michael Stoker, as well as Donna Hernandez was there. So the three of us sat down and discussed the option of bringing in a donated modular trailer and doing refurbishing it and making it a living space versus purchasing a new unit that's ready to go. The problem with the donated unit was the amount of work that had to go into it, and then the approval process that had to be followed to make that a living space. It required a HUD approval, plans, full construction documentation, because they are the element that approves temporary housing units, and that's basically what it would be a temporary housing unit. They weren't saying that we couldn't repurpose a trailer, but it would be way more difficult. The other item was explained to me, and I could do this by using the code, is we have to separate the essential need component of the temporary housing unit. And the discussion came about how is Station 30 able to have a modular unit at the sheriff's station. And they were able to separate the essential need component. So you would have no public access, no dispatch services, no housing of public for any purpose whatsoever, just purely staff housing. If you have any questions on the report, I'd be happy to go through the bullet points or whatever the case may be. Reading it to you line item by line item is a waste of your time. I assume you have read it already. It's my recommendation, we did put, let me back up, we did put a target of about $10,000 that we thought we would be able to renovate this free trailer with. But after talking to the county and trying to meet their expectations, that price would at least double, just because of the planning efforts and the construction methods and the condition of the trailer. If you look at the photos, some of those photos show how worn the trailer actually is, and it has several leaks and problems. If we did purchase a new unit, and there are a few examples of what the new units would look like, and if you take a look at that last one, it's called the Yosemite. It's basically 2 separate living spaces that are able to accommodate 1 person apiece. That would be an ideal situation. So something in that line is what I would like to look for. And there are other options just besides this one company.
So Yellowstone, was it?
Excuse me?
Yellowstone?
It was the Yellowstone, I thought it was Yosemite. Yeah, Yellowstone, I'm sorry.
Thank you for clarifying.
It's the last floor plan on there.
Yeah.
And it would be the ideal situation. I think, you know, aside from functionality, accountability, because you know who's in there, and if it's left in less than acceptable conditions, we know who to reach out to. I hate the term reach out, but to contact. At any rate, basically it's just information only, and I would like to move forward with at least looking into more options and bringing back some pricing, taking contractors' time up to look at the connection aspect of it. You know, we have to connect it to sewer, so maybe the CSD might be able to help us out with that, because basically we just have sewer and electricity, but we would need to contact an electrician to hook it up. Explain to the county the need and how we are trying to go about utilizing this particular structure on a temporary basis, and then as the department moves forward in the future, depending on what happens with the wastewater treatment facility, this would go away. And we would be able to surplus sales this and recover, I would say, half, if not more, of our money. So it's not just throwing good money after bad. We actually have something that's tangible. It would be, you know, lightly used and well maintained. No other way that we'd go about using this thing. Yeah, so on the Yellowstone, it has a bunk bed unit. We wouldn't do that. We would have a desk area there or something like that. But at any rate, in a nutshell, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer, but I would like to be able to continue down this path.
I remember from the special meeting, the last time it was to modify the modular. So, but the country planning staff is saying that prefabricated would be the best solution.
Yeah, just because of the approvals that we'd have to go through, because it is a living unit. So if it was just an office trailer that was sitting there with an extension cord plugged into the wall, you see construction trailers like that all the time. Essentially, that's what that office trailer is at Pleasant Valley School. So there's no living component to it. It doesn't need to have a housing authority approve it. If we modify the use, then we have to provide construction documents and then have the housing authority sign off on our plan, and then have inspections, permits, and all the other items that go along with that. It would delay the process. The permit fees would be waived, more than likely, as long as we asked the county. They were receptive to that. They don't expect us to pay permit fees, but we would have to follow the process, and the process would cost time and money. And at the end, we wouldn't have something that would be as attractive on a wholesale market or resale market, whereas something that was new and lightly used, we could recover most of our money, in my opinion.
I'm not opposed to that. I guess the only component of that we wouldn't recoup, if we put it out here next to the building, there's gonna be some site work, probably some grading, so they can set the piers and
We
all of
wouldn't
that.
recover the money for the grading or the connections at all. That would just be, either way, we're going to be spending those monies or those dollars.
Okay, and the pricing you intend to get will include delivery?
It would be a separate,
Site
yeah,
work?
we would have a package deal for whatever unit would be potentially delivered, and then we'd have a separate line item for any contractor's costs that would be involved in hooking up the electrical and the wastewater components.
All the setup, basically.
Yeah, the setup. And I would assume that the delivery cost would have the setup with it, there might be some skirting and,
Right.
that's what the setup company would do, it'd just be the final plug-in. And the electrical would still be as simple as possible. I doubt it would be a cord laying across the ground, but maybe some minor underground work.
Okay. I'm not opposed to gathering information on that.
I just wanted to let you know that the request was followed up on, and it seems like the most difficult way to go about doing it.
Yep. You have board comment? Any public comment? No. Anybody have any opinion on getting further information on a new module?
I'm with that, to find more pricing and what it would cost.
Okay.
It's time to leave.
Dr. Calvin's,
Yeah, that's fine.
Mr. Green. Good to go.
Thank you.
We'll move on. Item number 7. Discuss and provide direction on land tax speaker Rick Ryback.
Yes. So this is brought to us by Director Calvin's, and he can give us the details.
Thanks. This is being brought before the board in response to the fact that it was requested that we have someone who is an expert on this type of formatting system for our community. This is the person who actually I learned it from. I spoke with him on the phone earlier in January, and he said he would want to come out here, spend the entire day, talk with us, talk with our staff. He's honestly probably the most qualified in the entire country to speak on this subject. The reason definitely for looking at this format from the original proposal is our taxing mechanism has some significant problems, it appears to be, that I highlighted in the hybrid tax proposal, including some neighborhoods that are being subsidized by other neighborhoods and other things that aren't going to be very good that I don't want to really get into right now. But that was the quote that he gave me, was $1,500 for the entire day plus travel expenses. After doing initial research, the total cost would kind of be less than $2,000, and it would be pretty much to answer every single question that we would have to feel confident if we want to move forward with this.
Are you talking like a Saturday or something?
It would be a special meeting or whatever the direction. I'm trying to get information what this district would want to do and what direction the district want to go with this. So that's what I brought before you guys. I also checked our purchasing policies, whether or not, because our purchasing policy states about $5,000 and below, generally doesn't need board approval. However, though, I spoke to Mr. Roberson about it, and we wanted to bring it before the board so you guys can weigh in fully and all that other stuff. I want to be as fully transparent as possible in this entire process.
Good idea.
And this would be open for the public as well?
It absolutely would have to be open for the public. Can't do anything behind closed doors. So that's why I just want to know what does the board want, what direction. I mean, do you guys want to have him answer all your questions? You just, I don't know. I'm assuming you guys got a chance to look at the proposal, and you can also ask me a million questions too. That's fine. Absolutely.
Do you know if this has ever worked in California? Has this actually,
So
has this process been followed?
it's been followed patchwork-wise in other places. The San Ynez Conservation District uses a land value tax to finance a bond that's been going on forever. Also, the city of San Marcos, because they got such a low allotment of property tax, uses the Mello-Roos mechanism to fund their entire city services. So it has been used. The proponent is, the idea is to take both those mechanisms and put them together. So it then encourages people to, build stuff in their community. Right now, if you have a house and you want to put, a deck or another room, the guy's going to come out there with the assessor and he's going to jack your taxes up. But running the numbers on our community for the county's GIS system and all the assessor information and land value data, over the long run, as our town grows to the size of Pendleton, we'd be well off financially. We wouldn't even have to ever ask the community for a tax increase for our services. That's how the numbers would work as our community grows. So, I see you shaking your head in your back.
I'd like to see proof of that.
Well, that's what.
Yeah, same here.
And that's also why Mr. Rybeck, who has all that knowledge and can actually show where this has worked in other communities, can actually answer every single question anyone in this community or this district would ever have on this.
Thank you.
So yes, Mr. Dodds.
So you state in your,
I was trying to word it so I don't want to ask for anything. I want to know what everyone else wants.
well, I just have I don't know enough about it to say anything constructive about it, but my question is, in your staff report, it says that you want to have it done and to be able to be put on the ballot by June.
The county would need, if we were going to do this, there's only two opportunities to do it. Would be November ballot because of the mechanism that's involved in it, or it would have to wait until 2022. So if you run a push to November, then the county said you would have to have your final resolution by the middle of June. So that's what I don't know what the process. I don't know the timeline that this district wants to do. I'm just
Saying in order to get it on this November, there's a deadline to do that.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I'm just,
How many deadlines do you have to meet currently?
I got more than I can count right now, but if we were to go forward with this, in just sort of roundabout thinking about it, I mean, we'd have to have this guy out, or somebody like him out, to sell the board on it, sell the public on it. Then you'd have to have a consultant, you'd have to hire a consultant, that consultant would have to, set all this up, figure out all the ins and outs of everything. And I don't know what that would cost, but that would take time. So I'm thinking that the June would be too ambitious, and I mean, if this is something that the board wants to do, then maybe have this guy come out, figure out whether this is something for this community, and then over the next year, get it all put together, and then get it ready well in advance of the 2020 deadline.
right. So that's
2022.
2022, yes. So that would be a question that would have to be, that we have to figure out. That's why I submitted in December just saying, hey, this is what I've noticed, this is a thought, what do we want to do, what timeline. I'm just making a suggestion out there and seeing what the district.
Yeah, well, I just.
And if the district wants to push November, that's the timeline you gotta do it. I don't know if you need a consultant. Mr. Rybeck has knows most of the mechanism. And the other part, the Mello-Roos, surprisingly, it says it's not subject to 218. It's that. Maybe legal can correct me on that, but it said that Mello-Roos's tax format's not subject to the entire process. Which is kind of
seem legit.
I'm just.
Well, it's property tax, it's not.
Well, the
Well,
most
if
is you
it's
only
property
tax
tax,
people
then
that
it's
it benefits.
by 3/4 majority, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a 3/4 majority of the
So
registered
it
voters.
wouldn't be subject to 218 if it's a 3/4 majority on an election.
Right.
Oh, that's
Well,
why.
I guess my only statement was that's pretty ambitious.
I know.
From my position to try to get that
Sure.
done, it would.
I
I wouldn't even be doing it. So
I know. I just want to if they just
At
want to
least
do that.
not yet.
Right.
Question for general counsel, have you seen this information and is there an opinion on viability of this
I
program?
thought we told the general council not to look at it until we thought about it.
We didn't look at it.
Okay.
That was the direction.
there you go.
Yes.
Have you found out how that's going to affect the rest of the taxes in the county? I mean, who's going to oversee that whole process? Because county, I can't visualize the county saying, okay, you do your part of your taxes by yourself, and we'll do the rest of the taxes. And if they do agree to do that, then you're gonna have more people, more systems in place to handle that. And they're still going to charge their other property taxes.
Every other agency that has done this in California runs it through the county assessor's office, and even the Melrose tax, the county charged, I think it was like, was it $35 or $300 annual fee to handle it in every other agency. And that's San Diego County, Santa Barbara County, so I don't expect them to have a massive problem.
Okay, and so the amounts that you list on the last page, close to projections of revenue,
It seems,
it's very interesting because I don't see it as being an overall benefit. And I don't see the recreation and police, from what you described, would be there. The amount of money you're talking there, you're not gonna get much service. You know, if you hire a recreation director, you almost use that whole thing up.
most everything under the FAQ section actually talks into detail about how the system would even work. Most everything is hands-off away from the district to provide the services. It's provided seed money, fund, sorry, as the community grows and we actually do need those services, it would be able to sustain itself. Because right now, the current system, and you look at Templeton, and they're struggling. Obviously, the system doesn't, the current system that we have in this community and other communities does not work. Otherwise, Templeton wouldn't have been asking for a tax increase for the fire services. Same thing with Oceano, Cambria asked for it. Obviously, the system doesn't work when you look at something different. And I'm proposing something different that will give everyone a tax break.
How is this?
No, it doesn't give everyone a tax break.
Okay, so pretty much the majority of everyone in this town, as you look at the report in the other neighborhoods, those are the people that are gonna get a tax break. So,
The people who get taxed on their property taxes from the county are going to have a different system that property is taxed.
everyone that gets taxed, because a percentage of your 1%, part of it goes to San Diego CSD, part of it goes to the county. And all we're asking is reform the section that goes to San Diego CSD, so it doesn't impact our revenues, and would actually, according to the math, will lower your property tax.
And there's somehow that Rick can explain that
Oh, absolutely.
and show how it works.
Absolutely, that's why he is a person that can explain and can show you how it's been done in the other communities and how it benefited every single community that's ever been
It's
done.
going to not benefit people who own any of the property that's in the riverbed.
It's not gonna benefit people who are, what, in the riverbed properties?
The riverbed properties, they're gonna be paying taxes on that riverbed. They're gonna be paying tax on property they own that is not making any income.
I've already checked those properties, and most of those properties, actually about 3/4 of those properties are currently owned by the county, according to the county GIS system that they have.
So they're gonna pay us more taxes?